make a disclosure of pecuniary interest now or at any point in time through the meeting. And if I could have a motion to confirm the agenda for July 2nd, 2020. Moved by Walter, second by Hugh McDermott. Those in favor? Carried. And before we go to the consent agenda, it's my pleasure to introduce Mike Adair. He's our new Chief of Paramedic Services. And he's sitting just down here to my left. And we're going to spin the camera around. So first, Mac may say a few words. Sorry about your luck. And then he's going to pass it off to Mike. Anyway, so I'll take it away, guys.
Good morning, Mr. Warden. I do have the pleasure of introducing Mike Adair, our new GM and Chief of MediV. Mike will tell you his long history, of course, in EMS. Not quite as long as mine, but I'm longer in the tooth, of course. I gave you that promise when I first met council, and I'll continue to honor it, that I will be working very closely with Mike and this council to ensure a smooth transition. And probably you're going to be seeing me a fair bit anyway. So with that done, I will take it from Mike.
Thank you very much, Mac. Thank you, Warden. And so this is a truly exciting moment for me. Looking really forward towards working with everyone. My background is I come with over 18 years of experience in paramedic services. Again, not as long of a tooth as Mac there, but we have become friends over the last couple of weeks, working closely together for sure. And my career path, I grew up in Toronto and I started working there as a paramedic for 5 years. And I moved to York Region after that and ended up marrying my wife, Sabrina. And since then, we've had 4 children. And throughout my career, I've worked in MediV with Chatham-Kent for a couple of years down in the Chatham area, of course. And then I ended up in Waterloo Region and worked there as a deputy chief for nearly 5 years, and also had a little bit of experience with the fire service as well over the past couple of years. And this opportunity came up, and I was real excited to be engaged and work towards this and become the successful candidate. So I'm real happy to be here. Education-wise, I have a little bit of experience with Trent University in Peterborough, Dalhousie, and Royal Roads Universities, where I completed my master's in healthcare in leadership, and I've moved on to be a health executive certification as well. And just a little bit about our service. I've been learning, I took some notes here. I've been learning about our paramedics and the services that we provide over the past little while. And I have to say that the citizens and visitors to our county are in good hands. The hearts of our paramedics are there, and the clinical level that I've experienced so far is that of excellence. I learned about 2 weeks ago of a case where we had a quick response where we saved a life. It was a cardiac arrest, and somebody, I believe it was in their 50s, and I may be, I'm not sure if it was exactly 50, but the point being is that we were there quickly and we saved a life, and from what I understand, they've walked out of the hospital, or they will be. So that's a huge, impressive outcome. I've also learned about our community outreach program, our community paramedic program, where we're currently connecting with a farming community family who was seeking assistance for some of the for mental wellness for one of the persons within that family, and we've been able to connect them to that. So a lot of great things happening. It's very busy. As always, it's, and it's during a pandemic as well. But we continue to build a strong culture with excellence in patient care. We're going to keep our paramedics healthy and ensure that we do things efficiently and thoroughly. And I know that it's your commitment as a council that enables that to happen. And with our staff's hard work, we're going to continue to work towards excellent outcomes. And I look forward towards meeting each and every one of you in the very near future as I do some rounds, whether that be in a socially distanced manner over the internet or whether that be in person. So Thank you very much for your welcome, and look forward towards working with everyone in the near future.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Welcome aboard. I know we had some fun. I met Mike 6 weeks ago.
About there.
Yeah. And his impressive credentials. The only thing I said that was a bit of a drawback was he come from the region of Waterloo, and we all had a good laugh. And he's still with us. So anyway, I welcome you aboard and look forward to working with you here in the future.
Thanks very much, and maybe I can find, maybe we can figure out which community I should move into one day. So,
well, maybe we'll get you working on some of that overdue payment of unpaid billing. That's kind of a sore spot with some people. Anyway, we're going to move on.
Okay.
We have, if you guys want to get back to work, that's fine. We have items 5.1 to 5.11 in the consent agenda, and that includes your council minutes from June the 18th. Does anyone want to see anything pulled or discussed? Just scanning the screen. I don't see any hands. Thanks, guys. So I have a motion that council receives the consent agenda items 5.1 to 5.11 and approves the June 18th, 2020 council minutes. Moved by Mayor Todd, second by Bob Wilhelm. Those in favor? That's carried. Moving on. Public meetings, hearings, and delegations. So next we have economic development, and that is the community transportation project. And I saw Maggie up there once. Maggie, and there's Maggie. Is Justin there?
Yep, Justin's there.
Here, I'm just waiting for my
Yeah,
video.
there he is. Okay, thanks, Justin. Anyway, I'll let you take that ahead.
Awesome.
Are you speaking to this or Justin?
They both will.
Or both? Well, carry on, Maggie.
I might kick it off, and I'll pass over to Maggie to discuss the
Whatever.
bulk of the report. Well, first off, thank you, Mr. Warden and councillors, for the opportunity this morning. So, our intent this morning really is to bring council up to date on the status of this project. It has been, one of those projects that's been particularly challenged by COVID-19 and the restrictions that's placed on our way of life. But we do want to keep council up to date on some of the developments that have been happening in this project. Assure council that work is still being done and that we are moving forward as we can under the current circumstances. So Maggie will share the report, some of the more finer details of where we're at today, as well as where we're going. And then we'll open up for any questions that you might have. So again, I'll pass it over to Maggie and appreciate the time.
Awesome. Thank you. So hello, everyone. As Justin said, I just wanted to provide a brief update report on the community transportation project, some of the initiatives that are ongoing, as well as some of the ongoing challenges that we are being faced with due to COVID-19. So as both the pandemic and the project are quickly evolving, moving forward, we do plan to bring an update to council on a monthly basis moving forward. So since our last update to council on May 7th, the pandemic has evolved, causing greater delays across many avenues of the project, which unfortunately has left us unable to determine a viable start date for our service. We do continue to collaborate closely with our partners, our service providers, and the MTO in order to evaluate the situation and in turn determine when we can launch the service that'll best determine and set ourselves up for success. So the MTO has acknowledged the challenges that we are being faced due to the global pandemic, and they have provided us with assurance that they do not require us to meet the September launch date that is specified in our transfer payment agreement. So although we do hope to launch the service as soon as possible, there are a number of critical project components that must be addressed prior to determining a launch date. So we're currently working with Voyago in order for them to obtain a public vehicle license from the Ontario Highway Transit Board. So we did initially submit this license in January. However, we did just learn that they are unable to process licensing applications due to COVID-19 and their inability to work in the office and process these applications online. So we also just learned that we do require a petition to get this license. So we do plan to have this petition launched digitally within the next few hours of this meeting. So Voyago has also voiced concerns regarding the bus procurement process and the delays that it's being faced with due to the shutdowns of manufacturing in the United States. However, actually, since this report has been drafted, we have heard from Voyago that they have received their first wave of buses for the community transportation projects, which is great news. So the team is optimistic that we will have buses available to launch when we're ready to do so. Whether they're the permanent buses or temporary buses, we're hopeful we'll have vehicles to launch with a few months notice of our launch date. So another concern that Voyago has voiced is regarding the difficulties that they may have hiring and training drivers under these circumstances. So the team has advised that hiring drivers is usually a challenging task, even under normal circumstances. So they do fear that the increased risk and exposure, the uncertainty of schools going back, and the delays to upgrading licensing will impose greater delays in hiring the drivers that we require for our service. So due to these delays caused by COVID-19, county and city staff, as well as the other community transportation grant recipients, are suggesting that we request the MTO to consider extending the project timeline beyond March 2023. So extending this project timeframe would allow us to launch the service when it is safe to do so, when people are feeling more comfortable going out into the public and riding public transportation. And it would also allow us to establish a more successful 3-year pilot project program as initially planned. So all of the community transportation projects that have been contracted by Voyago have been delayed. And many of the communities are waiting for further direction from the MTO prior to determining a new launch date. So Tillsonburg has decided to move forward with their inter-community transportation project, and they plan to launch on August 4th. And they have agreed to share their data and their best practices as they launch their service through these uncertainties, which will be a great asset to us as we prepare to do the same. So we are confident that the transportation system will contribute directly to the economic recovery following the pandemic. So it is an important initiative for our county. We continue to work diligently to ensure that the project is moving forward and that we are ready to launch as soon as we can. I am excited to announce the branding of our new system called the Perth County Connect. And we're continuing to work on the development of the marketing and communication plans. And we're pushing forward on other initiatives such as finalizing agreements, bus stops, licensing requirements, and other critical project components. So that does conclude my brief update for you all. And Justin and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Questions for Maggie or Justin? No questions at all? Rhonda?
Thanks, Jim. I apologize if I ask questions that Maggie's already reported on because my internet is horrible, which I can't believe, and I'm not getting all the things that are being said. But anyway, I have a few questions. So we have LPAs with the City of Stratford and the Town of St. Mary's. Are those signed?
They actually are not signed yet. So our contract with Voyago is finalized and ready to be signed. However, the negotiations and discussions around the LPA are still ongoing with both St. Mary's and Stratford.
So I just
why
add to
haven't they?
Justin?
Sorry, I just wanted to add to that there is a close alignment between our service agreement and the LPAs. Both are very much hinge on having that launch date and hinge on each other. So that's part of the issue with both the LPA and finalizing our service agreement with Voyago are that identified launch we're unable to do it.
Oh, I don't totally agree with that. Like, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't totally agree with that. Yeah, they align, but they're separate grants. Ours is with the lower tiers in St. Mary's. Stratford got their own grant. So I don't see why we can't move ahead without them. To me, they're holding up our project. And will they ever sign? Will they sign in 6 months, 3 months? You know, are we going to hold this up until they decide to sign? It could be 2 years till they sign. COVID could be here for 2 years as far as that goes as well. So I have a real problem that we're letting someone else stop our project. I also understood there was a meeting that decided this for it not to go ahead. Who went to that meeting from Perth County?
So that was a meeting of CAOs. I was involved, and some of the other transit staff were also involved in that meeting, which occurred about a
So
week
why
ago.
was the, oh, right. So why wasn't the transportation committee included in that meeting? And was Maggie at that meeting? Because if not, she should have been.
Okay.
Lori's gonna actually respond to that.
Thank you, through the warden. That was a meeting to discuss issues with the project and to be able to report to all the councils involved in terms of the MTO issues, the bus issues, the Voyago issues. We are very close to being in a position to sign the LPA between all the parties, but the LPA is tied to the Voyago contract through a council resolution that says Voyago is, the contract is approved in principle based on the signing of the LPA. So we don't want to sign the LPA until we have our launch date and we have those details with remedies on how we're actually going to launch this project. So it's the meeting with the CAOs. Yes, it did not have Maggie in there, and that was my call for that. It was a meeting where we were talking about some of the issues, and I did not know what the discussion was going to be in terms of proceeding with the project or not, and given Maggie's employment hinges on whether the project's going to go forward or not, it wouldn't have been appropriate to have her for that particular discussion. So certainly Justin was there. It was a proper discussion. It went very well. We went through all the issues, and each CAO through their staff have reported back to their councils. And this report is an update on the status of the project. If council will remember, we talked about having a monthly update on the project. So that is the preparation for it. The transportation committee meeting, yes, we probably could have had one since the Monday meeting before we put out the particular agenda for this meeting. I can assure council then in the future, if that's something that council wants, I will make sure that happens. So, but it was a prudent step for us to meet and look at the issues that we were going to face and then report back to council through staff.
Right. So just so to be clear, the CAOs you're talking about are the city of Stratford, the town of St. Mary's, and the county, not the
Yeah.
lower tiers.
No,
I still say that, like, one municipality's already announced it in the paper what we're doing. We haven't even had the discussion. We're having it here today. So I'm very disappointed that that came out before we even had our total discussion of what we really wanted to do. It seems like we're running in circles around here. We can't, they won't sign the LPAs. We can't get the license. We can't get this until this happens. I'm getting sick of the running in a little circle here and running around. Like, either we move on with this project or we're not. So let's get our act together. And if we can move on, then let's move on. Voyago has the buses. Tilsonburg's moving on. Like I said, COVID could be here for 2 more years. It could be here 2 more months. We have a lot of uncertainties that we don't know about. The employers need the employees right now. And if we can help them get them there, then let's do that. So that's all I have to say right now.
Bob will know.
I guess my concern is that we have verbal approval to extend our start date, but we don't have anything in writing. And to me, if you don't have anything in writing and that date comes and we haven't got it started, then they have every right to ask for that $1.45 million back. And I would want to be prepared to move forward until you got that in writing, or else let's just wash our hands of it and say that $250,000 was a good idea or a bad idea. But without that letter, I'm very concerned if we're not moving forward.
And I would just say that we have been pressing for that in writing, although we have had the verbal confirmation. We would still continue to press for that in a written format. Absolutely.
Other questions or comments? Todd?
If I might, I think I want to pick up on Councillor Agnett's comments. I think the question, or correct me if I'm wrong, Rhonda, maybe you can just nod if this makes sense. But I think the question that she was posing is, there have been a number of decisions, and these decisions were made in meetings of staff. And some of those decisions perhaps are above operational and may require the opinion or the involvement of council or its delegates in this matter. And so that's what I'm trying to understand is, what are the structures that are in place that allow this council to be involved in those discussions at this point in time? Because I certainly know that I was involved as a representative of North Perth, interestingly enough, in the selection of our supplier, Voyago. But I want to know, is there a parallel structure, or is the same structure that should be involved in talking about the sort of big picture issues that I think Councillor Agnett's has raised? Because to some degree, a choice about whether we go or don't go and what time is not just an operational issue, in my opinion. It has political ramifications, and therefore council or councils should have some say in that. Rhonda, does that sound right to you? Like, you know where I'm coming from?
I do. I agree. Council needs to have the say. And I don't feel we got that. I agree with you.
Justin, you got something to add there? Maggie?
Well, I would just say, I guess, in the on a go forward basis, our intent of bringing this report was to give council the information that we had, based on where we stand today and some of the challenges and the issues. Absolutely, we want to make sure that this is a council led and directed project. So I think we can make sure that those structures are in place going forward. I guess that's what we can offer through the transportation committee and then through council as well.
Maggie, you got something?
No, I think that's great. As Justin said, and as both Mayor Todd and Mayor Agnett's brought up, I think a structure would be very valuable for these decisions to be made. And we can promise you that moving forward, that we bring more regular updates and continue to move forward on this project.
Okay, Mayor Todd?
Just a supplementary, there's been this reference to the Transportation Committee. Can you elaborate on exactly what that is so that myself and all of council are aware of who it's constituted of and what its roles are?
Listen.
Certainly. So the Transportation Committee is a steering committee of CAOs and the heads of council, as well as support staff. Justin will be part of that. Obviously, Maggie's part of that. And that role would be to review the program. Certainly, there was involvement sitting at the table for the procurement piece with Voyago from the county as well. There would have been for both parties. And generally, reports like this, when they come once a month to council, we would normally run that through the committee. So this same report that you're getting today is a report that is as an update. We would have normally run that through the committee first and receive committee feedback on it. The report today is the recommendation for staff is to receive the report for information. And if council chooses to submit a letter along with the other partners to the province to extend the program, that is a recommendation. Council's not made that a determination because the other councils in their meeting schedule, they would have had their meetings prior to the council, and that falls out from a meeting schedule. The staff have not made any material decisions on this particular project outside of the committee or outside of council. So we do not have a launch date, and that's what we're reporting on, as well as the challenges. So we are not delaying the project. We need to know what the launch date is. So that's the reporting to you. And then when the staff come back for the next meeting, then we will make sure that in future that any staff report coming to council first, we will run through the committee so that you're totally informed. Is that?
Rhonda?
So if council chooses today, can we not move that we start moving forward without St. Mary's and Stratford and get the buses, get the license, and away we go?
So through the warden, one of the things that you would need, you need your MTO license. So we don't have that. We don't have a launch date that we can tell you when this actually would be launched. You don't have statutory authority to run a transportation system in the city of Stratford or the town of St. Mary's in absence of their authorization. So we would have to go to them and ask them for that. In their partnership, certainly with the city of Stratford, they have grants in kind that come to our project in terms of where we, locate the buses and looking at the routing of collecting our riders and bringing them into Stratford. And the one of our key aspects of the county's project is to be able to bring ridership from the county into the city so that they're able to continue on with their rider plans to either an external community like St. Mary's, Kitchener, Waterloo. And these two projects are very much meant to dovetail into each other. It certainly is council's prerogative. If you want to give us direction, you know, we don't have to send the letter requesting the extension of the program. But at the end of the day, we're looking at what we can do to make this the best program possible for the community riders and for the businesses that are going to use it. And that intention was to have it dovetail with the other project. But certainly council will give us, and they can give us direction and we'll proceed accordingly.
Rhonda?
So if I may keep going, Maggie mentioned that Tilsonburg's going ahead. How are they doing that without the license then?
Yeah, so we have heard just recently that they are moving forward. We've learned that from Voyago. They're going forward based on the assumption that, you know, there's a pandemic in place. The MTO is making a lot of other exceptions, such as letting people drive with expired licenses until they can get back into the office to do so. So I believe they are moving forward on that hope. But again, we just learned this information yesterday, so there's no way to confirm their thoughts on that.
Okay. Going back to Lori's comment about bringing people to Stratford, Perth East and Perth South border Stratford, we actually have businesses right on the edge of Stratford. So I see no reason why we couldn't make them our drop-off points. Because the people are, as far as they're concerned, they're in Stratford, even though they're on the outskirts. But I'm not sure where you're going to have the bus terminal if you had it with the city of Stratford. You keep talking about dovetailing together. I don't agree with that. Yeah, they might kind of go together, but I don't think they do. They're two separate grants. We didn't apply with the assumption, or maybe we did, and I don't know that we would be working with them so closely. It just so happened, it'd be no different if we had two bridges on the same road, of a boundary road and we got a grant and the other county got a grant. Just because they're on the same road doesn't mean we're working together to do everything and one county won't do it, the other ones can't. So like I said before, we're running around in circles here and we don't seem to be getting anywhere.
Bob Wilhelm.
I'm looking at this recommendation and I can't support that recommendation. I don't have a problem requesting that they extend the start date, but I certainly am not in favor of extending the timeline to past March 2023, especially if we don't get an extension on the startup. And I think it's more important that we get an extension from the start, not on the end date. I think that this is going to end up costing us a whole lot of money in the end, and the shorter we do this, the better. But without the extension of the startup, we shouldn't be sending this letter, in my opinion, based on that.
Walter, you had your hand up, I thought.
Well, I did, and I guess I'm just trying to comprehend what's all been said here. You know, I think if you're going to do this project, you want to do it right. And my feeling is that we do need to have everybody on side. And I may be in a little bit of a disagreement with Bob on this one, but I think that we do ask for an extension, both with the startup and the end date. There's X number of dollars there, and I think if we can spread it out, it might be beneficial. But I would suggest that we want this in writing and that we do ask for it. And I think we work through our MP to get that, and the sooner the better.
Don't see any other green lights. I got a couple questions or comments. So North Perth has agreed that they would like to see the end date extended. Am I correct on that, Todd? You can just shake. You're saying yes? And Stratford and St. Mary's wants to.
Yep.
So can you give me any idea as to what timeline you're thinking? Like, do you want it extended 6 months, or you just want an open extension?
Yeah, I think that the purpose and the strategy behind asking for that extension is just to buy us more time, and essentially tack on these first months that maybe we can buy us more time to delay until, again, as Walter McKenzie said, we want to launch it when we are going to have ridership, when people aren't afraid to hop on the bus and the COVID kind of dies down. So ideally, I think it would be, if say we lose 2 months, that we could launch from today, we could tack those 2 months onto the end of the project, past the March 2023. Justin, you can add to that.
Justin, he's got his hand up.
Yes, and sorry. So just to clarify that the ask of the extension of the end date does not necessarily mean that we have to carry the project beyond the end date. It's basically a bit of a hedging our bets, I guess, a little bit in terms of what's going to happen over the next coming months, whether we can successfully launch sooner than later. So that request to extend the end date, it does not necessarily tie us to extending the project beyond that date. It just allows us to have that added flexibility in writing if that's the case we pursue.
Okay, one more question. So we have to do the petition to get the support, to get the license from the MT board. That can be done, take it relatively quickly because it's going to be all online. So once we get that done and we send that in for the approval, and then we get the license, has any of the partners indicated when they would like to see as a launch date? I know that I've heard the word pause or seen the word pause in a lot of the correspondence I've gotten the last week or two. Todd, have you had any indication of how long you want to pause this, or?
Not really, although, I mean, I can express a personal opinion, and that opinion is rooted on my evaluation of the landscape. I think that when we look at transportation and transit in cities at this point, at least, there are certainly grave difficulties that have been posed by the pandemic. And when you look, if you ask me, at some of the budget holes that the larger municipalities are complaining about at this point, it is because they're losing so much money on their transit systems. So for me, I have a grave reservation about starting this project until we have a lot more clarity around the pandemic and it's eased, if that's the right word. And I do want to see the integration with the other partners fully realized, because I think that we run the risk of launching a system that will be very poorly used and not a true pilot in terms of being able to evaluate the performance of the system.
Thanks, Todd. So before I read this motion, and you've all seen it, it's in your report, about a letter of support to extend the end of this project. Does anybody want to see the wording changed or anything, or can I just read this off and then we'll have us a little vote here? Bob?
Just to confirm that I can't support the resident recommendation without adding in the changing the start date approvals, whatever way you want to phrase it.
Okay, so if I was to say we add to this motion, say we would support the extension to the same length of time as the beginning of it was, would anybody have a problem with that?
Sorry.
Like, if we were to extend the launch date 3 months
The end date.
and have the end date the same
Okay.
extension?
Up to-
Because let's be honest, the state of emergency in the province is going to run out on July the 15th. They are not going to extend that, from the comments I've got from MPPs. So you're going to start moving into stage 3 in the very near future. I know I have some farm businesses complaining to me that they can't get workers, and transportation isn't the only issue there. It's when you've got people collecting lots of money and staying home and don't have to leave home, there's no incentive for them to go work. Anyway, that's not our problem to deal with. So I'm gonna slightly change this motion, and it's gonna be Perth County Council receives the Community Transportation Project July update for information, and that the county sends a letter, and I'm not gonna say what the city of Stratford municipality of North Perth, the town of St. Mary's, to the Ministry of Transportation on behalf of council, formally request an extension of the start date of the Community Transportation Pilot Project and the end date in a similar time frame. And you can word that better if you want, but that's just kind of off the cuff here. We can add, like, I'm not sure what your letter's saying, Todd. I haven't seen them, so do you have a problem with what I just said? Okay, Walter?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure where your letter's going. It's going to MTO, but I would certainly like it copied to Minister Mulrooney as well as Randy Pettipies, so that we have the two people that we're involved with that know what's going on and what we're asking for.
Of course.
You might also add in the Deputy Minister of Transportation. She's the one sends me all the correspondence lately.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yep.
But Minister Mulroney's fine too,
Yeah.
but I would
We'll
also
include
include the
them
deputy on that one. So does everybody have the gist of what I just said in that resolution? Those in favor of that resolution? 1, 2,
I may,
4.
oh, I have,
Oh, I think Ron does.
Okay, Ronnie, you want to say something?
should we have a timeline on this? Like,
Oh,
we're
I
gonna
just-
send
I
this
said
in
the
and,
extension is going to be the same.
no, but I mean for them to answer us.
Got it. We can't really put a timeline because we really don't know. I don't think any of us can put a timeline on that. It could be here next week or it could be 4 months from now. But in the meantime, we are going to get the petition done. We are going to get moving with the license. And then we can get a launch date. Doug, or Daryl, Doug, hey, do you have a question? No?
We didn't have a mover and a seconder for that.
Oh, I guess we do need to move in a second. Thanks, Doug.
I'll move it.
Okay, and Bob Wilhelm's gonna second it. Now, is there any more questions or comments? Those in favor of that motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're carried. Thank you very much. So, launch the petition, Maggie.
On it. It'll be live in minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, moving on. Corporate services. Year-end reserve transfers, and I
Corey.
don't see.
Corey's there.
Oh, there's Corey. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you, Warden Aitchison and Council. We're still kind of wrapping up the year end. The audit is taking a little longer with COVID, with sending just documents through a portal to the auditors, and so it's ongoing. It's a slow process. So the report in front of you is essentially the 2019 financial year end for the County of Perth. For 2019, we were showing a surplus of about just under 500,000. Most of it making up of social services. About 233,000 of the surplus is in there. Then there's also a good news that we came in on budget on winter maintenance for 2019, and a surplus in the roads reserve itself. And staff is recommending that that surplus be transferred into the winter maintenance reserve since the balance is at 0. There was a deficit within paramedic services. Staff is also recommending that deficit be funded from the WSIB reserve as well as the employment reserve that we hold for those. So the rest of the report is there. If there's any questions related to the report, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Questions for Corey? Takes me a second to scan the screen here. Don't see any hands going up. I've got a motion here. I got a quick question for you, Corey. So we had a surplus of 494,000, and I'm looking at all the transfers we're going to make, and that adds up to a whole lot more than 494,000.
Well, you'll notice that some are being transferred from the reserve and some are going
There's
to the
two
reserve.
from, but it still would be far more than, well, maybe not. Be close.
If you take the froms and twos, then it works out. Essentially, the ask is that the deficit in the paramedic services is funded from 2 reserves, and then the money from the surpluses, the remaining surpluses, go into the reserves.
Okay, thank you. So I have a motion. Perth County receives the 2019 year-end reserve transfer report, and the Perth County Council approves effective December 31st, 2019, the following reserve transfers. $419,180 to the levy stabilization reserve, $204,674 to the winter maintenance reserve, $63,674 transferred from paramedic services employment reserve, and $65,285 transferred from paramedic services WSIB reserve. Do I have a mover? That would be Doug Callum, second by Mayor Todd. Those in favor? Carried. Perfect. Okay, moving on. Public Works, Winter Modernization Project Report. Oh, there's John.
Thank you, Warden Aitchison. Good morning, Council. Excuse me. 3 reports for you today. The first being the update from our Winter Modernization Project. Of course, this is a work being done by a consultant for 6 municipalities, or 4-member municipalities, the county and the town of St. Mary's. At last council meeting, I advised that the province had provided us a letter that said that the project deadline, the final report, was being extended because of the COVID outbreak to December 4th of 2020. Council made a number of comments to me in regard to that and the project itself. And the very next day, or that afternoon, I had a meeting with our consultant to discuss a number of these issues. So 3 of the things we did talk about was the implementation of any potential efficiencies for the 2021 winter season, the project schedule, and some additional work that the 6 leads, public works leads, wanted the consultant to take on with our plow road optimization. So first of all, the implementation of potential efficiencies for the 2021 season. If there's any major changes to our winter programs or within this report, those are things that are going to take up to 1 year to 5 years to implement. What can be implemented in our upcoming winter season would just be minor tweaks and or some minor changes within our existing programs. And those can be things like application rates, materials, equipment calibrations, and plowing procedures within each municipality's operations. The project schedule, the current schedule was to be, the report was to be submitted on September 18th of 2020. Of course, with the additional work we were looking at, that was going to extend that out for an additional 4 weeks. But I think the big thing is we did not want to revise the work schedule given the new extension by the province of December 4th, 2020. And as well, what I wanted to get across to the consultant is that if we could have an interim report that would give us any of the minor changes or efficiencies that we could implement in this upcoming winter season. So with that, what we've come up with is we're going to, the final report will be on October 26th, 2020, and the consultant will provide an interim report by September 1st of this year. The additional work, we've been working with SEMA throughout the month of June on a process for optimization and modeling of snowplow routes and our facilities and yards. And during this meeting that we had, we were going through all their models and algorithms that they were looking at, and we were very encouraged that they really covered a big scope here. I think we were looking at sort of at the end of the day, an ultimate scope, if you will, or creating, looking at a blank slate idea where at the end of the day, we would be able to compare our current operations with, if we basically just blow it up, if you will, and if we were to start clean again, what would be the best for plow routes given no political boundaries, and where would be the best location for our yards. So we're trying to capture, I think, both ends of the spectrum, if you will, in what we're currently doing, and ultimately looking at different stages or different ideas that we could do along the way up and including a full amalgamation, if you will. So given that we think that was beneficial to the overall project, and the cost to do so was still within our grant funding, we gave SEMA approval to do so that they could get that moving and on the way, and so that we can meet our desired timelines. I think the rest of the report speaks for itself, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for John? Bob?
Thank you. Just wanted to confirm that for the first meeting of September, we will see a draft report on this.
Yes, through you, Warden Aitchison, I made it known in our meeting last week that the interim report would be coming on September 1st, and I would have that interim report come to County Council at the next available meeting.
Other questions for John? Not seeing any hands and not seeing any green buttons. I have a motion. Perth County Council receives a winter modernization project update report for information. Moved by Hugh McDermott, second by Ron Agats. Those in favor? Carried. Okay, John, we have the Perth County asset assumption process.
Right, thank you, Warden Aitchison. Yeah, next two reports kind of somewhat go hand in hand, and whether or not we should have been dealing with the Wayland line upload first, but we will deal with the Perth County asset assumption process. And what we're looking at here is just making a recommendation that staff provide a summary report to County Council on the consultation process and a potential framework for an asset assumption process. And this sort of comes out of discussion and a motion from Perth South. Middlesex County has current process for roads and bridge assumptions, which they do every 5 years. And in 2020, they've done it and have decided to upload Luke and Biddulph's portion of the Wayland line into their asset. That Wayland line, section of Wayland line is also a boundary road with South Huron and with Perth South. And 5.6 kilometers of that road, which is in Perth South from Highway 23 to Perth Road 151, Perth South has requested that the county assume that portion to mirror the Middlesex upload. So we do not have a road assumption process. And council may wish to create one where a lower tier can request that the county consider assumption of a road or a section of road or even a bridge asset under its jurisdiction. And that process could also include downloading of a county asset to a lower tier, an asset swap, or a boundary road, as in the case of the Middlesex County Wayland line example. I've given council a number of reasons why you may want to consider that. As far as assets and things that may be occurring within that particular roadway. Most of these obviously deal with a lot of these with the traffic volume and the class of the road. Also, so council's aware, over the last 15 years, we've only dealt with 2 situations involving assumption or downloading of assets. That was in 2005 when the county downloaded bridges that were on township boundary roads. These were previously in the county's asset inventory, but not located on county roads, and compensation payments were made to the lower tiers with this process. Also in 2013, we did a road swap with Perth East. Perth East took on Perth Line 37, and we took on Line 36 from 125 to Perth Road 135, which we're currently reconstructing. That road swap was done for continuity and effectiveness of service, and there was no compensation payments made to either municipality within that process. It should be noted, though, that it is common during these things to have compensation accompany the asset transfer, certainly when the asset is not in a reasonable standard. Also within the process, maintenance compensation can be considered as well. And those compensations are usually negotiated between the municipalities. So what staff's recommending is that we bring a report back to council in Q4 of 2020 and just basically outlining for you a consultation process with our 4-member municipalities and Perth County's 5 boundary partners. Want to also take a look at the Municipal Act and any legal implications for this process, and give you a framework of what this process would look like. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Questions for John? Bob?
Yes, I think that I congratulate Middlesex County on being proactive and watching their road counts, because as we all know, traffic is, volumes are increasing, and I think it would be good if Perth County could do some forward thinking and develop a policy similar to Middlesex County's. I don't think we have to involve everyone you can think of. I think if you look at Middlesex County's policy and see how it would fit for Perth County, I don't see that it would be that large of a project if they've already got a policy written that we could cut and paste and work for us. I think it's very surprising on some of the volume of traffic on roads. I know that our Director of Public Works, and probably John is too, very surprised at the volume of traffic on the Whalen Line. And that I think we need to look at all our roads and see what meet the volume for the county. We need to set parameters for what is a county road and the volume of vehicles per day. And without that, we're just doing a hodgepodge, as John just suggested, that we did road trade. Not sure why or what was behind it, but we did it. And I would rather like to see a policy in place similar to Middlesex County. And I don't think we have to rewrite the whole thing. I think we can see what's good in their policy and make it into our own. And then once that's done, you can share it with the lower tiers and get some adjustments. But I think we're past due on getting a policy for our roads.
Other questions or comments? Rhonda?
So are we going to start looking at all the lower tier roads then to see if there's others, like some of them in Perth East, the road I live on, it is continual traffic. So are we going to start looking at all of them to change the county roads, or what are we doing here? I'm a little confused.
I think that's why I'm suggesting a further report that would outline a framework of what you could build a process off of.
Walter, you had your hand up, I thought.
And maybe John can refresh my memory, because I'm going back a little ways here, but there was a policy for creating and establishing county roads, and I'm going back to Tom Collins's day, so that's going back a little ways into history. But a county road used to be established. You had to be a certain distance from a provincial highway, or there was a magic number. If the traffic volume was so high, then that constituted a county road. Did it not, John?
I'm not aware of any policy like that, Walter.
Oh, well, Tom, and you know, bless his dear soul, you could still ask him, I guess, but no, I remember him saying that many times. We used to go on a road tour in the county, and he would say, well, this road here, maybe it doesn't qualify for a county, or it shouldn't be a county road, but it does because of the traffic volume. And you'd go on another county road, and he'd say, well, this is a county road because of the distance between two provincial highways, and so this is why this one is a county road. So somewhere back in Perth County history, there is a bit of a policy. Now, I think, if you could find that, that would be great. It'd be a good place to start. But, I think you maybe want to elaborate on it. But there is somewhere back in our files how county roads were initially designed and established.
Okay, staff's gonna have a look. And having said that, a lot of those old notes were on handwritten and on paper. And most of them are illegible or not findable, just so you're aware. I'm just giving you the heads up. Hey, John, one other example, maybe for change of road, line 32. From Old Lone Avenue out to 135, that turned into a county road that many years ago, right? From Dunn's Bridge out to 130.
Perth line
32. So which is Lorne Avenue to Dunn's Bridge. And then it turns into a county road to 130. But that at one time was a Perth South Road, was it not?
I've known Perth line 32 to be within the county from O'Lone to 130, and then also a boundary between Perth South and the city of Stratford east of O'Lone, and then it turns into a township road for Perth South, and then for West Perth as you move farther west. But I'm not aware that was formerly a township road.
I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it was. And I have no idea what the criteria was back in the day when it was flopped. Another question for Tom Collins, maybe. Anyway, I have a motion here. Perth County Council receives the Perth County Asset Assumption Process Report for information, and that Perth County Council directs staff to provide a summary report on the consultation and framework for an asset assumption process. Moved by Todd, second by Hugh McDermott. Those in favor? Carried. Okay, John, we'll move on to the whale and line update. We've sort of already covered some of that, but you got anything else to add?
Yeah, I'll just say ditto whatever Councillor Wilhelm said, but he covered a number of aspects with that, and the ask is from Perth South that council receives the Middlesex County Wayland upload report and directs staff to continue discussions with Perth County to take over the same section of Wayland line being uploaded to Middlesex County. And so looking at that, every 5 years, Middlesex County does have the review process to assume lower tier roads and bridges into their county network. They do have a committee that oversees that process and recommends a threshold limit of traffic volumes and a scoring process and criteria for those assets that are under review. This latest review, the Wayland line from Highway 4 to Perth Road 151 is being uploaded to Middlesex County. Wayland line from Old Line, which is right near Highway 23 to Highway 7, is a boundary road between Lucan Biddulph and Perth South. The two townships have had a boundary agreement in place and to share maintenance duties, and no cross-border invoicing was necessary since they split that. With this upload, Perth South will need to enter into a boundary road agreement with both Middlesex County and Lucan Biddulph. And this is why Perth South has requested that Perth County consider assuming their portion of Wayland line to mirror the Middlesex upload. So I've provided council some details and information pertinent to the Wayland line asset, and that's just with the the roadway, it's the road allowance there, the traffic volume that is on that particular section of road. There's also a bridge asset on there. It's a rigid frame bridge constructed back in 1963. It has had a little bit of rehab work done on it, but latest OSIM reports indicate that there's probably close to about $500,000 worth of rehab work, and that could be within the next 6 to 10 years. So those are some things we want to consider moving forward. There is certainly merit to why the county should consider assuming this section of roadway from Perth South. And with Middlesex County uploading that into their asset inventory and maintaining it on a go-forward basis, typically you would see boundary road agreements between common levels of jurisdiction, example, county to county. Certainly service levels, the class of the roadway, maintenance costs are more aligned between common levels of government. And I hope, and certainly within this case, that there's a better opportunity for the counties to split or share maintenance kilometers within a boundary road agreement. The Wayland line has, as Councillor Wilhelm has said, has experienced a significant increase in traffic volumes, and that's just within the last 5 years. And we certainly expected, in doing some traffic counts recently on other sections of roadway in the area, in 5 years, we know that Middlesex will include the other portion of the Wayland line within this particular review. So there is the possibility that we could be looking at further sections in 5 years' time in 2025. Staff do support the potential assumption of the Wayland line, and we've outlined next steps in the process. And one of those is just discussions with Middlesex County regarding potential boundary road agreement, capital plans for the Wayland line road and bridge assets. Also be a benefit to have conversations between Middlesex County, Perth South, and Lucan Biddulph on best ways to have effective and efficient service on these area roadways. If there's any questions with that, the recommendation here is just to continue on with discussions with Perth South and Middlesex County and update council as the process proceeds.
Comments or questions for John? Walter?
Well, this is, to quote Jim, this is a comment, I guess, as much as anything. If we proceed quickly on the previous report that we were talking about, this would probably look after itself. If we establish a policy and traffic counts and one thing and another, what we're going to do for a county road, I think that this would just resolve itself. I'm not opposed to doing it, but I think we need to be doing it logically. I'm guessing from what has been said, it probably is justified, but if we put a policy in place, I think this will look after itself. So I would say let's concentrate on getting that policy done as soon as possible, and this will happen.
Todd, did you have your hand up before?
Yeah, just an informational question with regards to the part of the justification of the upload of this road is the traffic counts. Are there other roads in Perth County that are currently held by the lower tiers that have equivalent traffic counts and that warrant consideration moving forward for assumption by county?
Through the warden, there are other township roads within the county that have traffic counts over 1,000 vehicles a day, which at 80 kilometers an hour would make it a class 3 roadway.
Just further, if I might, can you give me a sense, is it like one hand's worth or two hands worth or a few more than that?
I think the last time we took a look, we might be talking about 45 to 60 kilometers of roadway. in and amongst the four municipalities.
Doug, I,
I got confused here, John. Are we just looking at the paved section or the gravel section of this Whalen line? Because it's only paved the 2.5 miles, right? I drove it there, it's across the river from Bob, and then I drove it all the way to Highway 7. It's all gravel except the first 2 sections, right?
no, it is paved from number 7 right through. You must have been
It's
on a
on the wrong
different
road. Does it go right through,
maybe.
right through Prospect Hill?
That road is paved from number 7 right through. And actually, a lot of it's just been rebuilt in the last 3-4 years.
I'm gonna go drive it tonight when I go to the trailer park.
Well, there you go. It's just the last 3 or 4 years, right, Bob?
Yes, I think the one end was done, what, John, 5 or 6 years ago, and I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we did from 151 to the Prospect Hill, and I think Ken's got Prospect Hill to number 7 slated. I'm not sure what year it is, but yes, we've pretty well done it. And further, I agree with Walter that we need to get on this and develop a policy, and this type of discussion would take care of itself. And I think it's great to be proactive and let the chips fall where they may. If the road requires better service and because of traffic volume, etc., so be it. We need to be forward thinking and look after our people that use the roads. And on the other hand, if we have some that don't meet it, well, then maybe we shouldn't have those either. But I think, as Walter said, a good policy will take care of this all.
A lot of heads nodding there on that comment. Okay, I have a motion here. Perth County Council receives the Whalen Line update report for information. And the Perth County Council directs staff to continue discussions with Perth South and Middlesex County regarding the assumption of the Whalen Line and Bounty Road agreement. And maybe we might add a line there to further enhance the, what's the word I want? The criteria and for uploading and downloading of roads. In other words, we want that report done and it'll take care of itself. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Walter, Bob. Those in favor? That's carried. Perfect. Okay,
So,
thanks, John. You got more?
Mr. Warden, if I can just get some clarification here. I think on the last report there with the Perth County Asset Assumption Process, what got approved and recommended is that we're just bringing back a summary report on an assumption process. And then with this Whalen load upload, from what I'm hearing, council wants the process done ASAP.
Well, I think if we get the assumption process framework in place, the rest will take care of itself, John.
Okay, so just to be clear, you just want this report for the framework ASAP?
Yeah.
Not necessarily the process itself.
Well, Bob, I think we want the process as well, but
I don't think we need to waste time on a summary on how we're going to do this. Like I said before, I don't know why we don't take a look at Middlesex counties. If we've got anything of our own, put the two together and bring that report. We don't need a report to justify another report. I think council's already said that we need a policy to look after reasons for uploading or downloading roads, etc. And a policy will take care of that. And I don't see why we'd waste time on putting a report together that, yes, we need this. We've already agreed, and Middlesex County has one. Walter indicated that perhaps Perth County already has something, but put the two together and just bring the report to county council would be my opinion, and don't waste your time on justifying it.
Basically, what you're saying is we just want the framework policy brought back.
Dovetail the two together.
Dovetail the two together.
That's what I do.
Anybody got a problem with that? Don't see any. Okay, is that okay, John? Yeah. Perfect. Okay, we're moving on again. I just lost one of my sheets here, but here we go. Council reports. Does anybody have anything? Not seeing any hands or green lights. How did the parade go yesterday, Todd?
Yesterday was a fabulous day in Atwood and all of Perth County for celebrating Canada Day virtually. We had a lot of participation. I'm told that the live video feed of the so-called Atwood excursion, which was a single float being moved up and down the streets of Atwood, earned 3,200 views on Facebook, which is certainly larger than any parade crowd that we've had in the live parade that we've run historically. And in terms of the range of events that were executed, impressive collection of things done by the programmers across the county and each of the lower tier municipalities, along with the usual passionate and different commitment from the Atwood Lions. It was a great event, a great day. Please come to Atwood and see all the chalk on the sidewalks. It's still all here. And I think you'll enjoy seeing the wonderful messages and what's happened here. So to my colleagues who participated through their virtual messages and tributes, thank you for your participation. Thank you for making it possible for Atwood to continue its 62 years of tradition into a 63rd year, even though very different.
Thanks, Todd. Okay, bylaws.
No.
We don't really have any. We have a confirmatory bylaw later
At the end.
at the end. Notice of motions. Anybody have any notice of motions? Other business? Takes me a minute to scan the screen. Announcements? Not seeing any again. I have a confirmatory bylaw. That bylaw 3766-2020 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the Corporation of the County of Perth at its regular meeting held July 2nd, 2020. Be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed July 2nd, 2020. Moved by, that would be Bob Wilhelm, second by Matt Duncan. Those in favor? That's carried. And I have a motion that council meeting be adjourned at 10:18. Moved by Mayor Walter McKenzie, second by Hugh McDermott. Those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much for your indulgence. And even though everybody was having internet troubles to start, it seemed to go fairly smoothly.